So this is one, second factor, third factor. So it is chart ready. So x is the variable in the problem. X is the next factor, or the first factor. Negative x minus 3 is the next factor, and x plus 4. And then the entire product, which is x, negative x minus 3, and x plus 4. And I know that x goes from negative infinity to infinity. I know that the 0 for this is 0. The 0 for this is negative 3, and the 0 for this is negative 4. So therefore, from left to right, I have negative 4, negative 3, and 0. In the row of x, I have 0 under 0. In the row for negative x minus 3, I have 0 under negative 3. In the row for x plus 4, I have 0 under negative 4. It's a product. It will always be 0 when x is 0. These two are linear functions with positive slope. They look like this. They come from negative. They cross the x-axis somewhere and then go positive. So that's negative and then positive, negative and then positive. However, the middle one has a linear function with a negative slope, so it looks like this. So it's positive, it crosses the x-axis, and it goes negative. So now I see 1, 2, 3, 4 subintervals. Obviously, I have two negatives, positive. I have one negative, negative. I have two negatives, positive. I have one negative, negative. And then I'm choosing only positive because only positive is greater than 0. And the product is positive here and here, which means really here and here. So therefore, I write x in the interval negative infinity, negative 4, close because, no, close. Not close because I don't have the equal symbol, and union negative 3, 0. Justin, is this okay? Good. Any questions?
Number 5 in the yellow.
Okay, so we have a ball that is thrown upward, yada, yada, yada. Find the maximum. So we have f of x, which is negative 0.8 t, f of t, of course, plus 3.2 t and plus 6. So negative b over 2a, negative b, 3.2, 2 times a, negative 1.6. So this is 2 seconds. So then the maximum will be, maximum height will be when t is 2 seconds. And I plug it in, and I don't have the solutions. I have to plug it in. If anybody has the number, I'll put it in. I'm looking for, I don't need my calculator. I can use this one. I don't remember what it is. 9.2. So 9.2 measurement unit feet. Any questions? It's a quadratic function. When I'm asked to find the maximum or the minimum, I will determine the vertex. First the x-coordinate and then the y-coordinate. Perfect. I did post one of the tests and solutions. Even if you had the other form, please print it out and work on that as much as possible, and then I'll make sure that I post the other one. I don't remember which one I posted. I think I posted the yellow form. Anything else? Is there anything else you would like to go back to? Other questions? Other questions?
Yeah, number 6 in the yellow. How do you put it back into the problem if you get
Number 6.
make 6A and B? So I'll get the first two solutions.
Okay, let's Let's work on that. That's fine. Let's work on that. Very good question. So we have x to the fourth minus 20x squared plus 100 equals 0. So, and you said let t be x squared. Is that what you did? Mm-hmm. So therefore I have t squared minus 20t plus 100 equals 0, which is t minus 10 everything squared equals 0, which is t equals 10 twice, because I know I have to find 4 solutions. So then I replace t by x squared. So x squared equals 10. I take the square root and I get x equals plus or minus the square root of 10 twice. So I have 2 solutions that are positive the square root of 10, 2 solutions that are negative the square root of 10. Is this okay? Yeah. Now for the other one, x plus 2 squared minus 9, x plus 2 and plus 20 equals 0. I will say let t be x plus 2, so then this is t squared minus 9t plus 20 equals 0. And I factor into t minus 5 and t minus 4. We did this problem in class, I think. T equals 5 and t equals negative 4, positive 4. So now I set t, this t equals 5 will be nothing else but x plus 2 equals 5. So then x equals 3. And then the other one is x plus 2 equals 4. So then x equals 2. Is there anything else? Is there anything else? So Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday, Monday, Wednesday. So today is the 14th, 16th, 21st, 23rd, 28th, and 30th. And then in December, what do we have? 4 and 6? No, 3 and 5? Anyway, so the rest is review for the final exam. So our test 4 is here. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I really have actually 4 sessions, 4 meetings to finish chapter 7 and part of chapter 12. We do not present everything in this class from chapter 12. Any questions? Okay, so let's start chapter 12. In chapter 12, we'll start with these 3 sections, 12.1 through 12.3. And then we'll continue 2 more sections and then chapter 7. So, chapter 12 deals with exponential and logarithmic functions, but before we even get to define those, we will be talking about algebra of functions and composite functions. 12.1. Algebra of functions and function composition. I hope you're not going to find this difficult, because it really isn't. It's a lot of writing though, but I don't think you'll find it difficult. When we talk about algebra, we really mean addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. That's what it means. When we talk about algebra, it has to have these operations. Not all of them at the same time, but at least one of them. When we talk about functions, we really mean we're adding functions, subtracting functions, multiplying, and dividing. So we will be creating, if we are given two functions, so I'm going to say given f of x and g of x, we will be creating 4 new functions. Using these functions when adding them, using these functions and subtracting them, using these functions multiplying and then dividing. So these functions will have specific names that will easily identify the operation required. Can anyone give us the definition of the first one? When we say f plus g of x, what do we really mean? Can anyone dictate and I will write it, I will put it in. F plus g of x means? Good. So how do I write it? Excellent. Thank you. Now, when we're asked to find f minus g of x, what do you think will that equal to? Perfect. Thank you. When we are asked to find fg of x, what will you say? Excellent. And finally, you will say? Correct. Perfect. However, this is the one that has an if. The previous 3 did not have an if. Bless you. But this one has an if. If what? If g of x, then we will be in trouble. Does not equal 0. Good. So this is algebra of functions. We're adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing functions. However, there is a problem, or potential problem. 4. You understand that this x, so if x is 5 here, what should x be here? Of course, there is no question, right? If I'm asked to find f plus g of 5, it's f of 5 plus g of 5. If I'm asked to find f minus g of 0, it's f of 0 minus g of 0, and so on and so forth. But both functions have to be defined at that point. If one function, let's say f, is defined between 1 and 10, that's the domain of f, and the other function, let's say g, is defined between -3 and -1, that's the domain of g, do you think that I can create f plus g of 2? No, because I have f of 2, but when I get to g of 2, what will I say about g of 2? Does not exist. So then this does not exist. So the point I'm making is this. If these two functions do not have a common domain, if they don't exist for the same or at least a portion of the x values, then the sum, the difference, the product, and the ratio will not exist. So we are going to define right now what is called common domain. And I'm going to pick a problem from the book before I explain that. I don't see what I need in the book, so I'm going to make up an example. So let's say we have f of x, which is the square root of x plus 1, and g of x, which is the square root of x minus 3. First question I have for you is find domain of f. What do I have to write? I have to write something, solve that something, and then I will be able to write the domain of f. Can anyone tell me what to write? I say you have to write this, and then solve it, and you will get the domain, and I'll write it. Excellent. Did you all hear? X plus 1 must be greater than or equal to 0, because we cannot, from chapter 10, we know that we cannot take the square root from a negative number. So therefore, I have to write x plus 1 greater than or equal to 0. I move 1 to the other side, greater than or equal to negative 1. Can anyone now give us a domain of function f? Very good. Based on the same principle, can anyone tell me what to write for finding the domain of g? Very good. Excellent. Therefore, means that x is greater than or equal to 3. So therefore, the domain of g is? Excellent. Now, I have to find the common domain. So on the real line, together with me, please, let's graph these two domains. 0 is in the middle, negative infinity to infinity. And then, okay, so can anyone tell us, you already told me, negative 1 to infinity. So here's negative 1. So negative 1 to infinity is this. That's the domain of f. And now 3 to infinity, let's say 3 is here, and 3 to infinity will be this. Now I need to find the domain that it's called common domain, where both functions exist at the same time. So if I want to create the sum, difference, product, and ratio, that's where I have to pick numbers from. Do you all see? Exactly where I have both colors. Red and green are in here. This is the only territory for which both functions exist at the same time. So then common domain is 3 to infinity. This will always be the domain of 3 functions. The domain of the sum, the domain of the difference, and the domain of the product. It may or may not be the domain of the ratio. That part I don't know yet. I have to wait and look at the ratio first. So the common domain is always the domain of the sum, difference, and product. You will see it in a moment. We'll convince ourselves of that in a minute. So now I'm ready to find the sum, difference, product, and ratio. So f plus g of x. I have to write the definition first, which you told me already, f of x plus g of x. And then I have to copy the square root of x plus 1 plus the square root of x minus 3. And that is it. And the domain is this. Now, I want to write the difference. So create the difference. F of x minus g of x. And I copy the square root of x plus 1 minus the square root of x minus 3. Then when I create, and by the way, can I simplify these? Chapter 10. That's why I'm kindly, we only have, what, 4 weeks till the final exam? I'm kindly recommending print out the tests and work on them as many times as you need. Please, you will forget. And to cram everything back into your brains in 5 minutes or 2 days is not going to happen. You're going to be stressed out. Okay, can I combine them? No, they are completely unlike radicals, completely different. So fg, by definition, is f of x times g of x, which is the square root of x plus 1 times the square root of x minus 3. Can I multiply these two? Chapter 10. Yes, because they have the same index. So I can write the square root of x plus 1 times x minus 3, and if you want, you can expand that into x squared minus 2x and minus 3. But you cannot simplify it any further. This is it. Now I finally get to the ratio. So the ratio So f over g of x, you already know. It's f of x over g of x. And it's the square of x plus 1 over the square of x minus 3. I did not have any ifs so far, but I have a big if now, and I have to write it. What is that big if all about? If right, if x minus 3 does not equal 0, which means x not equal 3. Remember the common domain? This was the common domain, definitely for the sum, difference, and product. Now, can anyone dictate the domain for the ratio? Remember, the domain for the ratio is the common domain from which I exclude potential values that make the denominator 0. But it has to start with a common domain. Careful. What about 2.9? What about 3.1? Sorry. So, therefore, the domain is parenthesis 3 comma infinity. I only have to exclude 3. So from here to exclude 3, just 3, I have this domain. If I write 4 to infinity, then I miss infinitely many numbers between 3.000000 and 4, whatever. Good. That's all in section 12.1 about algebra functions, but I would like you to choose a problem or two from 1 through 8, and then we move on to something else in this section. Number 6 it is. Perfect. Good pick. I was just looking at number 6. Excellent. So f of x equals the cube root of x, and g of x equals x minus 3. So no matter what they say, I'm going to ask you to find the domain which is called common domain, which will be the domain of the sum, difference, and product. I will ask you to find the domain of the ratio, and of course find those 4 functions. Please dictate what do I have to do first. I have to find domain of, exactly, the domain of f. Can anyone look at this function and say, oh, I remember from chapter 10 how this function looks like, and its domain is? Excellent. It's the cube root, no problems. It's a friendly root. Good. Now for function g, you will say, oh, I know how to graph this. I can picture it in my head right away, and I know its domain. It's a linear function with a positive slope. It looks like this. Negative infinity to infinity. No restrictions. On polynomial functions, no restrictions. So what is the common domain then? Right, no problems whatsoever. Till I get to the ratio. I don't know anything about the ratio just yet. So then you will give me the sum. You will give me the difference. You will give me the product. And then you'll give me the ratio. And then I will ask you to find the domain of the ratio. Please give me these, and I'll take attendance in the meantime. 1 second. Let me know if you have questions. It's a lot of writing in this section, as I mentioned, but I think you got the idea. Let me know if you didn't. Can anyone dictate the sum? You have to write, please write f of x plus g of x first, and then can you dictate it to me? Yes, I agree. Yes? Excellent. Can you combine anything? Of course not. Very good. Then f of x minus g of x. Careful, we have to subtract g of x. We have to subtract all terms in g of x. Very good. Any questions? Then I have f of x times g of x. And I have this, the cube root of x times x minus 3, but we have to put x minus 3 first and then the cube root of x, which is the same thing. And I know you're going to say f of x over g of x, and f of x is the cube root, and the denominator is x minus 3. And you'll have to put a comma, and you will write if very good. And now from the common domain, you will eliminate which value of x? Very good. Which means you're going to give me the domain of the ratio, s being? Yes. Excellent. Perfect. Do we understand how algebra functions looks like or works? Would you like to choose another example? Do we have any questions? Should we look at one more?
Yes.
Perfect. Very good. Please choose from 1 through 8. And then we'll move on to the fifth way of creating new functions. And the last one. Okay, I'm going to choose 7. In 7, we have f of x equals negative 3x. And we have g of x equals 5x squared. Two minutes. I want to find the domain of each. I need the common domain. I need the sum, the difference, product, and ratio. And, of course, the domain of the ratio. 2 minutes. Shouldn't be that long. I've been trying to upload a video for my Thursday class since Thursday. I think I did it like 7 times. Still not working.